Another Brooklyn champion,
Brownsville,
man.
Brownsville.
Champion.
Never will.
So tell me, what was that like growing up in Brownsville? I know, but we need to hear
Wow.
It was you know, it was the 80s. It was first it was the 70s, and then it was the 80s, and then it was like, you know, survival. You know, it was rough. Everybody was poor. You feel me? It was poor. You know, everybody was poor, but it was like, you know, it was the haves and the have-nots. Some people had it. I was fortunate. My mom's was a working mom, and she, you know, tried to keep me fresh, and there was those who was trying to take the Pumas or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It was like, you know, I used to go to Bessie Head Pool.
I had my sneakers taken from me.
I remember leaving my. It was at Atlantic Towers pool. They took my sneakers from the pool and shit. You know?
And that's so awesome. And you knew Fat Russell and stuff, huh?
Yeah, that was. I grew up with Russell. Actually, he used to babysit me when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah,
Listen,
Rusty.
I used to live on Atlantic between, what was it, Rockaway and Sutter? Was it? So I lived up there. I used to live right across the street from Atlantic Towers, and that's where I met Russell. My whole life, him and his sister, my whole life I knew him.
Yeah. I grew up with them. They used to babysit me as a kid, you know. Johnny May is his sister.
Yeah, I knew my whole life.
Yeah, their mom was a great woman. She did a lot for the building, you know what I mean?
My whole life I knew him.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? My whole life I knew this guy, and now I know this guy. He knew that guy.
Yeah. Shout out to Rusty. Atlantic Towers in the
Russell,
house.
always a nice person.
Yeah, good dude. Fly Rusty used to be fly back in the day.
Russell, always a nice man.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you guys know each other growing up?
No, only during boxing. Never knew him growing up. I left already.
Then I came trying to, you know.
How old was you in '78?
Sheesh. I was 9.
Yeah, he was just 9 when I really left. I was locked up. At 78, I got locked up, and I stayed in the system, and that's how I became
was like 7.
Yeah.
7 or 8 or something like that, yeah.
Wow.
I was born in 71.
Wow, 71.
But you were a legend, so you was in the, you know, your name always rang bells when you came back to the hood. Everybody was like, you know, and then we was happy because we from Brownsville, so it was always like we the dirty part, you know what I mean? We like the dirty dudes of Brooklyn, so to have
if anybody know we're from Brownsville, but hey, you watch that guy. You be kept watch, else they'll beat the shit out of you and kick you out or something. They didn't want Brownsville guys around us.
Nah, they didn't want us around. So Mike being from Brownsville and being successful, it gave us a lot of hope. You know, it gave us a lot of hope because it was no hope until then you see Mike and you're like, wow, it could be something, you know what I mean? So,
but I was one of those guys always in the corner, had my crew always snatching chains, picking pockets, breaking in cribs. I was just one of those kids since I was 11 years old. That's who I was. I thought that's my destiny. I was going to die like the rest of my friends. That's all we knew is robbing people, sticking people up, robbing your mother's boyfriends and stuff like that. And this is all we knew, robbing people. All we knew, robbing, if they're not your friends, everybody else is a victim. You know what I mean? They're prey.
Facts. So you learn how to fight early.
Yeah.
You learn how to fight. That's one thing we did. I tell people we was too poor to afford guns, so you had to learn how to fight.
Wow.
Everybody boxed, you know, and plus play fighting was a big thing. You know, slap boxing, and so it's like everybody in Brownsville could fight. If you girls, everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody was fighting. You had to have listen. This is what from my perspective. If somebody knew that you're prepared to kill them, you had all the respect in the world.
Facts.
Else you already had some bodies or something. Isn't that crazy? If you kill some people, you have respect.
Fear.
Yeah, everything was fear-based. Brownsville was fear-based. I was always afraid. That's why I brought my life to the ring. And everything, everybody was afraid. The fucking audience were afraid.
Yeah.
You know, they were afraid. You know, I had that image, that era, that's just, it would rule my life. Fear ruled my life.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people say, you know, when you come from the Ville, man, you suffer from PTSD.
Right.
That's just a fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you grow up from an early age knowing you go on a bus. You know what I mean? Somebody gonna try to take your bus pass after school. Some
or your
kids gonna be
sneakers.
your sneakers.
Or they
waiting
want
for
to
after
fuck
school.
you.
Facts. I tell that to my wife, and she be bugging out. I be like, yo, you know, I grew up worried about getting raped and shit. You know what I mean? It was rapists, and remember the guardian angels had to come to the hood.
Yeah, no, that's
it was. You had to worry about getting fucked. Real talk. As a boy, getting raped, that was a big thing. Like, you know, had Dead Arm was out in the hood. It was room. You know, like it was legends that, you know what I mean. You know, of people that did shit like that. So it was always wild. So growing up like that, you don't take no shit. When you get, I carry it now. Like I have to be careful with my temper because, you know, sometimes I can snap because I live that. You know what I mean? I live it. It's hard to let that go. It's not even that I can let it go. It's who I am.
Right.
I was born in Brownsville, December 4th, 1971. And although I've been far removed from it, living in Florida, I still carry the you know, the feelings of don't fuck with me, or I'll have to show you. You know what I mean? Don't make me show you, because I will. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, I always, that's funny that you said that. I'm tripping that this guy said that because I don't want my kids to know who I really am. Isn't that something? All my life, my kids are grown, I have some grown, but I don't want them to know who I really am. You know, I don't want them to know.
But that's deep. Like Mike said, though, if you grow up worried about going to take out the garbage or going to get the newspaper and you get raped, then you know, at an early age, that's something you learn. Be careful. So now as you grow older, you're like, okay, now when you go to jail, that's a whole nother part of Brownsville, because it was like a rites of passage. If, you know, until you go to jail, you haven't, you know what I'm saying? You're not official. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not a real one.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I mean?
If you're in that life, if you're on the corner all the time snatching chains, picking pockets and stuff. And listen, when I first got locked up, I was 12 years old and I was so scared. And then, because when I first, it was late at night, so I went up there, so I went to my cell and they closed the door. And then it was daytime. I had to go to the fucking where you go when you have to eat. I had to go to breakfast, wherever all the inmates eat breakfast, right? So when I go to the chow hall, I go to the chow hall, I see all my fucking friends. I'm scared to death. I go to the childhood, I see all my fucking friends. Now I'm a fucking god. Nobody better fuck with me. And then, so I love being there. Every time I came back, I got locked up, I loved being in Spotsville. All my friends were there. You know, being in and every time I was locked up, then I went upstate. All my friends are there. Nobody's gonna touch me. No, nothing's gonna happen to me. And so that became my home, being an institution. I became institutionalized.
My pops died in prison. My step-pops raised me. He died in Marcy, upstate in Marcy. And it was like, I remember going to visit him. Pardon me. I remember going to visit him in Rikers. It was like 88.
And it's hell going to Rikers, getting on the bus.
Oh, that's crazy.
Getting to Rikers is hell.
It was crazy.
You know, getting to Rikers Island is hell.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And then I remember we was in the visitation room. It was crazy. And I was in Rikers Island, and I knew that it was going to be a place where I would eventually be, because I knew people was there. You know what I'm saying? I was asking, who did he see? My pops was on some serious stuff, like, yo, stop playing. This ain't a game. Like, Shannon, your mom's just telling me you doing this, you doing that, and, you know, you don't want to be here. And he's a big man, strong man, and he had tears run down his eye. He said, you don't want to be here. This ain't what you think. This ain't, you know what I'm saying? But at that point, my life had made a turn. You know what I mean? I had grew up, you know, although I lived in Brownsville, I lived up the hill. You know, Atlantic Towers was always nice.
Up the hill.
It was nice. And then we moved down the hill.
Yeah, I lived up the hill, and then shit got bad.
No.
You went down.
That's what happened to me. I went down to Marcus Garvey. Woo. You went down to Amboy. You went down to Amboy. Woo. I went down to Marcus Garvey. Right
just
down the street.
There, you don't know what's down that hill, nigga.
It's another level.
Woo!
It's another level.
Hell.
It's another level down there.
Listen, Ocean Hill, Brownsville is beautiful. When you going down that hill, whoa.
They get it popping up the hill, though. But down the hill,
the monsters, you know.
Another level.
Woo.
Yeah.
Woo. Facts. You can't even believe people like that exist.
Fuck.
You can't believe people like that exist.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I moved down the hill, you know what I mean, life was different. And then I was getting into like little shit, and then my pops, I went to see him. My mom was like, I got into a little trouble here and there. My mom took me to see him, and I never seen him cry, you know what I mean? And he cried. He was a big dude, big like you, dark skin. He was my stepdad. He raised me, and he had red eyes naturally. It was crazy. He cried and he said, "You don't want to be here, Shannon." And I felt like he was dissing me. I felt like he was saying I wasn't built, like I couldn't take it.
You
I was
were
like
too weak or something.
And I was rebellious. Like fuck that. You're gonna see. I'm gonna make it. You know what I mean? Because I had heard all the stories. Get your knife, dude. And looking back, it shows my ignorance. It shows that I was in such a state of ignorance living in that hood, but all I knew was what I was going to eventually be, die in prison. All my friends was there. I asked about this person, that person.
Yeah, I know that story.
And to follow his footsteps. I mean, he went down the hill, I went down the hill. We got evicted from Atlantic Towers. We got evicted, me and my mom, and at that point, we lived all over Brooklyn, and I found Starry City, and I found Jimmy O'Farrell. And that was the change in my life, getting into boxing was the whole, I was nothing without it, it gave me a life, it gave me an opportunity to travel the world, and, I eventually met Teddy Atlas, who he had grew up with and trained with, so it was ironic. Then I met Mike Marley, and he was my first, manager, guy found me, he was like, Mike Marley very well. Very well. It was crazy because Mike worked for Don.
Listen, I was watching, I'm going to blow your mind. I was watching something on YouTube, and then something came out. It was almost like a documentary about you, and it showed you with Mike Marley and how you had dreadlocks and you were so thin, and you were just youth. You were just a young guy.
Yes, brother. Let's go, champ.